we want to welcome Dave. Let's give him a round of applause.
How much they read. The Goochland Homeschool Moms would like to give you a special thank you for not only defending our Constitution and preserving our individual liberties, but for being a good role model for our children. You truly are proof that principles do matter. And we have some of our homeschool moms are here tonight. You want to stand up. Some of them made it tonight. Some of them were. Some of them weren't able to be with us, so we've written thank you cards from the moms, some of the dads, and our children. We are hoping that you accept these cards as a token, a small token, of our gratitude and appreciation for the daily sacrifices you make to defend and preserve our freedoms.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all very much. That's what makes this job bearable. The rest of it's terrible. Am I set? Are we going?
You're set. You're all right. This is great. You go.
All right. I had a good day today. I met with a bunch of 200 realtor management folks this morning. 200 people in a crowd. We just had fun. The Federal Reserve economist was there. He kind of played the straight man. And then I got to do the political commentary. So I had the fun. And I think we're winning people over. It is good to see, right? The country, I think, is just so fed up with a mess up in D.C. that the business is coming our way. And I think I posted it, I'm getting ready to post it. My team, Nancy, shot me my numbers the other day, but I asked her, I said, look up my Chamber of Commerce score, U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It should be the pro-business group, right? They should be good. And the state chamber, by the way, is good, and the local chamber, but the U.S. Chamber, I got a score of 55% somehow. Right? He knew the punchline already. And I'll tell you why that matters. And so our senators, Warner had about 60, and Kane might have had a 57, and I got a 55 with U.S. Chamber. Right? And so that score doesn't tell you much. And in this, the reason I'm telling you this little snippet right here captures what's wrong with the whole country. And then I looked up my small business score, NFIB, or any other group like that. Guess what my small business score is? 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? And I don't say that's true for other people that vote the way I do, but how in the world can that be? How can I have 100? They always use indexes, right, to determine these scores, whatever. How in the world can I have 100% small business score where I stand up for the small guy and for small business and free market principles, etc., and have a 55 for big business, right? And so you can go look it up if you're bored, but I mean, all the votes are there, right? So I voted against the Export-Import Bank. I voted against the transportation bill, which I wanted to get to yes on, right? Infrastructure and roads, and we got plenty of folks in 95 and all that. We got, if it is a good bill, guess what they attached to the transportation bill? The Export-Import Bank. And then they scored the budget, the omnibus, and the cromnibus 2 years ago, and the busted the budget caps. The chamber scored that against me for voting against budget increases from our own side, right? So I'll post, you can see the details on it. But that's just kind of a shocker. That was this week's, kind of the light bulb went off, and you just see it in a different way, right? I think everyone in this group knows probably everything we say tonight, right? And so I'll give you the update. The budget numbers just came out again. And so the first week I went up there, I had to vote on the cromnibus, right? And that funded President Obama's unconstitutional amnesty. So I think you all know I voted no on all of that because it funded an unconstitutional amnesty. And then Boehner said we're going to fight tooth and nail, and we never did. Right? And so then I saw the logic. It took me about a month to figure out how the place worked. And so I said, guess what's going to happen next Christmas? The same thing. Right? And so the same thing happened on last year's budget. I was on the budget committee. I saw the whole thing for a year. And they said that Paul Ryan called the budget a crap sandwich. and we all voted for it. It's unbelievable, right? So we voted for what our own speaker called a crab sandwich. And so that's 2 in a row. Guess what's coming up this month? You can't believe it, right? And so and then people, you all get frustrated, you should. And you say, and then people message me, Dave, what the heck are you doing up there? Can't you do anything? Well, I'm in every national newspaper I can be in. I get on every media I can. I message exactly what's going on. I try to tell the full truth, but the exact same thing's about ready to happen. So I just got today budget tracker, and you can look up this thing. So we did have a $535 billion deficit. And House Freedom Caucus guys are all against that. So we had a meeting with Paul Ryan 6 months ago. And we sat down, had a beer summit. We involved a big table and 1 beer, right? So that was the beers. But he came in, he's a nice guy. Hey guys, give me your best ideas for the budget. Right? Kind of affable Wisconsin thing, right? Hey, give me that. So we gave him 40 ideas. And out of a $535 billion deficit, we wanted to save $30 billion. Everybody with me on this? Out of $535 billion deficit, $500 billion, we want to save $30 billion. And because that's the amount we broke the cash by. So we said, we can't go back to our constituents with a straight face, right, even doing this. But at a minimum, we got to save 30. So he said, okay, give me your ideas. And so what's his name, Palmer from Alabama said, well, we pay $120 billion to dead people every year. And so that's more than $30 billion, right? So we can not pay dead people $120 billion, and that'll save us 30. And then the second idea, there's $800 billion in agency accounts at the end of the year. That's true. That's bigger than $30 billion. And so we went through 35 or 40 proposals that are all huge, save more than $30 billion, and then Paul Ryan, after we got done with about 10 of them, said, and here's the line, I get in trouble, he said to our face, so you guys don't want to do a budget? I said, what? And everybody's just scratching their head, and he kept saying that. It was like a Star Wars, right? A Jedi mind trick. I said, so you guys don't want to do a budget? I said, Paul, I don't know what that sentence means. It's verging on unethical if we're not already there, right? What does that sentence mean? We want to do a budget. We're trying to help you. If you save 30, we can go back to our constituents. You can go to the country and say we carved out 30. We actually made a little bit of savings, backtracked and whatever, and we left the meeting like that. And that was it, right? So once I see that, that's over. And then the messaging was for the rest of the year. So now the deficit numbers came out today. I guess we made some optimistic assumptions back in that thing. So now the deficit's not $530 billion, it's $580 billion or something like that. Right? It's another $50 billion higher. And I found out today, my staff said when you get back, there's already been a compromise between leadership again, Republican and Democrat, probably to blow up the budget by another $30 billion on defense. And then if you do that, then the Dems say you got to match it over on the social side and give us $30 billion over there. So there's another $60 billion over the increase and over the crab sandwich. And so what am I going to do? Right? And so that's the thing. And then the press and everybody I meet said, the standard narrative out there is, well, you right-wingers, right? They call you a right-winger or a knuckle dragger or whatever. And the left wing, and there's this political battle up there, right? So if you all, there's a lot of educated people in this room, help me write and show that's a false narrative. It's totally false, right? We all get along up there. I work out with the Democrats in the morning, right? I try to follow Christian principles. I get along with everybody. I just vote different, and I'll argue with them. We argue religion in the morning. We argue whatever. But the narrative is wrong. And so what's really going on up there, who's leadership? Right? When it comes to these budget votes, we got 40 in the House Freedom Caucus, but in the Republican conference, there's 240. And so 200 go along with that. Right? Or 150. You just go look up the budget votes for the last 2 years and you'll see the names. Right? So if you want to know who to be mad at, go look at the votes. And the Democrats, they don't have a balanced budget ever. Right? They don't. We try to have a budget that balances in 10 years. They don't have a budget that balances ever. Right? And so that's the budget story. That's what I'm going to be looking at. And so if you got good counsel on how to get strategic about messaging that, but I'm term limited, right? So I got about 10 years left. And so I'll never be a chairman of a committee I don't want to, right? Because I like being free to vote my conscience and the message. And so that's what I'll be doing. And hopefully I get better at that and maybe get a little bit of a national voice coming up, right? Where I can make a little bit more noise. And then on the unfunded liability piece, right? I've been talking to you about that for 2 years. That's the $100 trillion piece. That's Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, Bush prescription drug plan, right? So in 10 years, all federal revenues will go to only those mandatory spending programs. You all with me on that? In 10 years, and that's CBO, Congressional Budget Office, right? So that's the boring guys. In 10 years, all federal revenues coming into the coffers go to mandatory. And mandatory, we can't change on the Budget Committee. So that's 75% of the budget right now, and it's in law. That's why it's called mandatory spending. Anyone that signs up for Medicare gets Medicare. There's no upper bound on it, and you pay it out. And if you want to change that, you have to change the law. That has to go through the House and then the Senate and then overcome a presidential veto. So what's the odds of that? 0. Right? So now those numbers have changed also within the last year. Medicare and Social Security were going to go insolvent in 2034. Now it looks like they're closer to a 10-year window. Right? And the Social Security piece, I just checked this out with my policy guys. The Social Security piece, seniors will get a 20% clip in benefits in 10 years under current law because it runs out of money. Right? So that's what's coming. And Medicare is a little more complex. But the story that's not told there, right, is the Democrats out-message us and no one's got the guts to say any of this in public. Right? But the main story there is when it comes to equity and the good guys and the bad guys, they call the Republicans bad if you talk about reforming Medicare and Social Security. But the kids, the next generation, I see a few young people here, are going to get nothing. Right? By the time I see a bunch of young people, thanks for bringing up the young people. Right? You all with me on this? So in 10 years, there's a 20% clip in law for seniors in 10 years. Right? In 40 or 50 years, when the kids, right, I just sent my boy off to college freshman year, right? In 50 years, his benefits will be, I don't know, right? I'd be estimating, but way less. And no one's living high on Social Security and Medicare right now. Right? So it's obvious the answer has to be that work age has to go up and we're going to have a means test or something, right? But those are the new numbers that are coming in. What other issues? Now I'll get to Q&A so you can all ask what you're interested in. The Iran deal, I was one of 9 people who voted against it, the Corker-Cardin deal. How's that turning out? Right? So that's that. Right? I voted no on the Puerto Rico deal. The news came out this week. What was the bailout number on that? Everybody see that headline? It's going to be in the $60 billion now it's $113 billion or something. So that's way up, right? So my headline there, I wrote a piece. You can go Google that. That was a funny one. I had a good one. I said, we're going to do control panel. This is Republican law, by the way. We're going to do control panels with 5-year plans channeling Stalin. What could go wrong? That was my opening line. Right? And that's what was in it. We set up a control board with 5-year plans. That's what Stalin did. Right? Central planning. And we took away the sovereignty of the Puerto Rican people. And we have the United States government, Congress has the ability to override anything with a budget impact in Puerto Rico going forward. Right? So we took over the sovereignty of the Puerto Rican people. No one knows anything that's going on. Right? And it wasn't a treaty. It should have been a treaty. The Iran deal should have been a treaty. And on and on and on. Right? I'll get into the politics if you want to get into all that. Hillary and all that. Right? The foundation piece. I think it's coming on that. Right? The computer piece is a little boring. It was totally illegal. She should be in jail for that piece. But once it comes out where you show the pay for play and a change in foreign policy, right? So over 50% of the donors to the foundation got in the State Department, right? Got a connection to the State Department. And once you show some turnaround in foreign policy, right? Once that email comes out, right? The email that came out last week was Bill Clinton's senior aide at the foundation shot Hillary Clinton's senior aide, Uma Abedin, an email and said, hey, I can't get this guy into the State Department under normal procedures. Can you guys get him in? Sure, we'll get him in. Right? So he couldn't get in through normal channels, but if you're a huge donor, so that's quid pro quo. And once they find the policy piece, then I think you're going to have a September surprise / tsunami coming. What else is big on the? I'll just give you my one snippet on foreign policy to tell you how that's going. We met with. Have I told you? Have you heard this? General Milley. You know Milley. Milley's the chief of staff of the Army, 4-star. We met with him in the morning. He came in. He was 2 months ago. He was on 60 Minutes giving the flashing red light talk about readiness, right? And readiness for generals. Our generals are not warm, fuzzy people, right? They got Excel spreadsheets. Readiness of the Air Force and all the branches of service, and in detail with kind of quantitative metrics for what does readiness look like. So we got a D minus F, C minus, D minus F, C minus, nothing higher than a C minus. Mainly D's and F's on readiness. And at that time, and now China is rolling us, Russia's rolling us, the Middle East is rolling us, Iran is rolling us. Iran did something yesterday, right again. North Korea, the short, goofy guy, is rolling the United States of America. Right? I mean, it's just laughable, right, what's going on. So I said to him, I said, why can't you guys, right, do strategy that uses all the levers of power that the United States has at its disposal with Russia and China immediately? If you say, hey, either behave or you're losing access to U.S. financial markets in New York City. It's done, right? I think you get your way. That alone, right? And then you say, on top of that, access to patent law, university system, immigration system, foreign aid budgets, right? State Department policy, military budget policy, access to all that, right? We have plenty of levers of power. So I said, why don't you use the full range of power against some of these countries? And he goes like this. He says, nope, we can't do that. Let's slap our hands. This is a 4-star general. So I said, well, who is in charge of this? Anybody know the answer? National Security Council, which is in the White House, and it's been political, and it's linked to the people I just named, right? Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, right? They're doing U.S. military strategy out of the White House, which means it's attached to politics, and Obama doesn't want to use force because he doesn't want to look like he's not a peacemaker, right? While the Middle East is in flames. And there is no peace. There's no peace anywhere because of our foreign policy. And so that's what's going on in foreign policy. That everyone says, Dave, what'd you learn? What opened your eyes? What's the new thing you learned going up there? And everyone says, was it like House of Cards? And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Everyone's been very gracious, nice. The senior people are nice. The Democrats, you get along with personally. We debate and whatever. But that's the piece that was the shock. I was expecting the economic corruption domestically in the deals, the budget deals and all that. But I've learned the foreign policy corruption. I thought for sure no one would compromise that, right? When it comes to just foreign policy decisions in the best interest of the United States of America, and you would sacrifice that for some business deals for billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it turns out that's what's going on, right? At the highest levels. And so I'll wrap it there on that and open it up for anything you guys got.
Don't go any. I was going to say I noticed something different about it.
Oh, good. What is it?
It's not the haircut.
Tan?
No, I think it's the jacket.
Oh, yeah?
I got a blue jacket, so I could. I was wearing a different color.
That's what I was light for the summer.
So we're going to do.
We got 2 days off.
We're going to do the Q&A, but we've got our tea kettles to circulate. We want to see if you guys could see a way to extend the love offering for the facility that we have and for expenses putting this together. So you'll see those circulating.
Right.
And before you get to Q&A, tell us a little bit about the book.
Oh, good.
And then I'll have you orchestrate the question.
He's doing a book promo for me, so I got to take him up on that.
I have a
Homeschool moms, raise your hands again. Buy the book. All right, it's not bad. The first 4 chapters are interesting. After that, I think it's interesting, right? Socrates must. So I wrote the book. People say, why'd you write the book? I wrote the book because us conservatives always get put in a bind if you go back even to the founding fathers, right? Madison, Jefferson, all this kind of stuff. say a bunch of right-wing Tea Party people obsessed with the founders and whatever. And so I tried to write a book that shows it's not really the 200-year thing, it's the 3,000-year thing that matters, right? And so the argument is, just in a nutshell, 3 pillars made the United States great, made us who we are, made us the greatest country on earth, period. The first one, without which we wouldn't be who we are, is the Judeo-Christian tradition, right? So that goes about 4,000 years back. And you get the law out of that tradition, right? So Paul Ryan looks up out of his chair. Who's the first guy he sees right up there? Moses, right? So there's the law and the prophets, etc. Right? And then out of that tradition and the law, you evolve gently and you get to 0. Something significant must have happened at 0. My college kids often didn't know what happened at 0. I was a little surprised. I said, the calendar started at 0 when you were born? No. So I said, well, something must have happened at 0. Right? But in terms of what I try to do in the book is our side is losing to the Democrats on messaging. Period. We're not even close. We're not in the ballpark, right? What are the Republican talking points on war? Anybody tell me in the room? We're at war. Senator Kaine wants an AUMF. He knows we're at war. What's the Republican talking points on we're at war? You don't know. Right? So there's the messaging on everything, right? And so what do we really lose now? Where do we really lose? And here's the irony of ironies. They outflank us and outbeat us by using one word, compassion. The Democrats are compassionate and loving. And you're not. You're a bunch of meanies. Right? You don't love people and you're bigoted and all this kind of thing, right? So we're losing that one. So part of the book is to lay out where did love enter the lexicon? At about 0, right? So the Jewish tradition clearly has God loves humanity and all that, but universally, getting out of the world history, at about 0. Prior to that, Rome was cold, sterile, etc. Right? At best. And then you get love enters the world, and love is not in contradiction to the law, so I try to show these things, right? The same God that loves also sent the law. It's not a contradiction. They go together. If you love your kid, you probably discipline your kid. Right? So you try that, and then you go through the law, and I go through the history, and I get up to the human rights emerge. Anybody now? Young people? I'll put the young people on the hook. Human rights language starts about, is it in the Bible? About 1400. Rights language emerges only in Western Europe, only in Judeo-Christian countries. Right? So that's interesting. Right? Isn't this fascinating? Wow! Human rights language comes out of certain tradition. And then you get some other cool guys like Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. James Madison went to Princeton Seminary, roughly speaking, where I went. Was lucky enough to go. When he was done with undergrad, he stuck around and studied what for kicks?
Is it Greek or Hebrew?
Yeah, Hebrew. Right? So James Madison, the author of the Constitution, studies Hebrew. Why does that matter? Because the Hebrew worldview has what view of human nature? Very positive or a little bit fallen? Or quite a bit fallen?
Pretty fallen.
Quite a bit fallen. How long did it take to fall in the Hebrew scriptures?
About 3 pages?
3 chapters, right? 3 pages, right? Right? 3 chapters. I just had a good dinner with my Jewish friends, and they cracked up when I told them that. They liked that one. And so why does that matter? Because if you set up a constitution and you know human nature is fallen, how might you set up a government? You might separate power at every turn that you can, right? So vertically, you got federalism, federal government, state government, local government. Horizontally, you got the executive, judicial, legislative, etc. And that's just the beginning, right? So you separate power at every turn. Human nature's fallen. The left thinks human nature's fine and dandy, right? Their guy's Rousseau, right? I think he's the only smart liberal that's lived, but he was pretty good. And the book outlines some of that stuff. And then if you really get lucky, at the end of that turn, that's the second pillar, the rule of law and the Constitution, etc. Right? So Judeo-Christian tradition, rule of law, and then if you really get lucky, you get the free market system. It's icing on the cake, and you get rich. Right? And that's Adam Smith. And he had the same logic as Madison. It's pretty fascinating, right? These Enlightenment people were pretty smart. And so Adam Smith said, you want a large number of small competitors in business. That'll give you the optimal economy. And Madison said you want a large number of small actions competing against each other, right? Have good politics. So what you don't want is a monopoly or a king. What's DC looking like today? And that's it. So you can just see, right? DC is the total aggregation of power among elites who are doing top-down central planning and everything, right? Obamacare on down. So I can do a little of the economics. I showed some of that, and then I can go into some of St. Augustine and all that. So the first 4 or 5 chapters will keep you awake. And after that, if you have a hard time sleeping this summer, just read the latter chapters on philosophy, and you'll be doing good. That's the book. And then lastly, I always forget the obvious. Politics, I got to run an office. I don't have a ton of money, so I need you all to knock your neighborhood. Right? I need everyone in Goochland. Now, last year, I think Goochland won the award for the best results in terms of percentage of folks voting, turnout, etc. Right? But this year, just inject a little Adam Smith. I got 3 new counties, and one of them is Chesterfield, Moore, and Powhatan, Amelia, and Nottoway. So if you know any folks out there, spread the word for me. But Powhatan had some pretty good results when they weren't my district. So make sure they don't outdo you. Right? So I injected the wheel club competition. Goochland, Powhatan, for the highest percent of walkers. If you know young people, get them out, send them into our Nancy's back there, Phil's over here. Right? They're working like crazy. Phil works harder than I do, right? I get to go out and talk and have pizza, and then all the barbs come in to attack me, and Phil and Nancy, and they have to handle all just the total baloney that goes along with his job. And so thank them for all they do. I get thanked from you nice people who thank me, but the team is doing the work behind the scenes, and they're absorbing all of the crap that comes my way, right? So please support them, thank them, and get me walkers, phone callers, supporters. If you got rich uncles, I hear Goochland's got a few rich uncles. So if you know any of them, give me their cell phone number or something. I do need that kind of help. How are we doing?
We're ready for questions.
Good. Q&A, go. Anything you want. Trump, I know I'll get some drama or whatever.
Down here, there's Glenn on the right there.
Yep, Glenn.
Back to the NSC side.
Yeah, right.
Has it always been that way? Have they always had the final say?
No.
Who started that?
No, Obama is vindictive, right? And everyone's political, right? No president's been a saint, right? Abraham Lincoln is awesome, and he was tough in certain ways. Washington was tough. But this is a new level and degree of vindictive, right? So last week, the CEO of Aetna drops out of 11 to 15 exchanges and lost $200 million in a quarter. He's going bankrupt. And on the way out, what does he say? He says, but these exchanges are still good. It's still a good system. Right? So think about that for a minute, what's going on. So why is he saying that? Because he's scared of the President of the United States of America. Right? Because if you tell the truth that this system's going to implode on its own logic, which most people probably knew, you're going to suffer some sort of penalty. Right? Obama is highly political. He will go after you, your firm, and you pay a price. Right? It's unbelievable. Whenever certain things get posted on I'm a freshman, right, on my Facebook or whatever, whenever I'm effective, oh my word, you should see the sharks come in, paid hacks from California, and Sarah's out there, thank her, she cleans up so many messes on my Facebook all day, every day. Right? I got to pay someone to basically do my Facebook all day, every day because of that. Right? So, I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's it.
Got a question in the back?
Hey, Dave, I have a question concerning education.
Yeah.
Often Republicans here, for example, in Virginia this last year, our General Assembly for this biennial budget, this year they added $1.2 billion to what was already there for K through 12 and community colleges.
Yep.
So, and often you hear our elected officials say, man, education's great, we increase spending, when Governor McAuliffe agrees with them and says that's a great thing, we should be concerned. Now, here's my thing. You're out there, I've seen you talk with high school students occasionally.
Yeah.
your book says the three pillars of, the greatness of America, the
Yep.
Judeo-Christian ethic, the
Yep.
rule of law, the free
Right.
market economy.
Yep.
How good is our public education system doing in teaching the rising
No.
generation about that? So should we continue to say the public education is great, or do we?
No, it's not great. It's terrible. The public system, right? My kids go to secularly, right? Deep Run High School, Short Plum Middle, right? Whatever. In secular terms, they're considered very good, right? They get high SAT test scores, but that's not education, right? I mean, I don't even know where to start on this. So I spoke to the business guys today and the accountants. One measure of it is, and I taught freshmen, so I know what I'm talking about for 18 years, right? So the graduates from the high school system, doesn't matter what high school they went, they don't know what a business is, right? So they don't know what a resume is. They don't know what a business is. They don't know the difference between a price and costs and profits, right? So in this crowd, maybe most of your kids go to college, so that's nice. But the rest of them who don't, what are they going to do? They're going to work for a business, and they don't know what a business is, right? So you see it's just phenomenal. And then the left, I push back on the left. I get in trouble all the time on ethics, right? There's a book called The Soul of the American University by Marsden out of Notre Dame. If you're interested in education, it's a phenomenal book. He showed, right? So Princeton Seminary, Yale, Harvard, all of them, Stanford, all founded by Puritans, by the way, right? Harvard, 1640, founded by a bunch of Puritans who we make jokes about, right? The motto back then for Harvard was truth for Christ and church. I think that's the Harvard motto today. Truth for Christ and church. Somehow I think they lost it.
I think they shortened it just to truth.
Truth? No, even truth's gone. They attack. If you go to a Harvard brown bag in philosophy, religion will laugh you out of the room. Natural law, Aristotle will laugh you out of the room. Reason, the concept of human reason, is rejected. Rights language, rejected. I'm not making this up, right? I mean, it's postmoderns. That's what's going on. So how are we doing on education? Yeah, it's terrible. And then our side is scared to stand up and say anything, but Goochland, I don't think, is scared. And I think you take good part in your education system, the local system, and you should. And that's what has to happen.
Got one back here.
Good.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about this trans-Pacific partnership that the Obama administration has announced that he wants to ram through the lame duck session of Congress.
Yeah, I forgot lame duck.
The Republican establishment seems to be all in favor of this.
Right.
And this is a European Union-type socialistic supranational entity that, Britain just had their Brexit and got out of that same type of setup. So I'm just curious, since they passed fast track last year, what are the chances of defeating this in the lame duck session?
I would say no, but after what I just heard about the budget piece that's coming, when you see that there's a deal made by leadership, right? And so the House Freedom Caucus, 40 of us, we changed leadership, right? We didn't beat our chests about it and brag about it, but we got rid of Boehner, 40 of us, right? And we got Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan promised us regular order. Well, that sounds boring. It's not boring. It means that, for example, the budget stays in the budget committee that I'm on. And once it's done with committee, it goes to the floor for a vote by representatives of the United States of America who represent 800,000 people each. So that's a good thing. What I just tell you is going to happen to the budget? Bless you. What's going to happen to the budget? Who's in charge of the budget right now? Nobody. It's nowhere. It hasn't been voted on. It came out of committee. It's sitting in Rules Committee. It's nowhere. And they'll construct a crisis right before Christmas, like the last 2 years. That's why I said it's going to happen, right? And the same thing's happening on trade. So who's going to determine the entire budget of the United States? 5 people, right? Maybe 3 Republicans and Nancy Pelosi. Last year, when those 5 people got together, every conservative policy writer, right? We had the films on the life issue. We had immigration, serious pieces in there. We lost every single conservative writer. So the trade piece, I'm afraid, is part of that negotiated framework, right? When you hear that that's what's going to happen on the budget, my guess is they're orchestrating that vote to go through, and it's already been, right, We got 200 votes here and 150 votes here, it's done. But I'll let you know, right? I mean, that's what I try to do.
So we got one down front.
Good, yep, hey,
Thank you for all the details you do.
sure.
I just want to say where there's a risk, there should be a choice. So as far as vaccines, where there's always a risk, where do you stand on preserving our choice in Virginia and federal?
Oh boy, that's a good one. That's a big, on most stuff, I'm 10th Amendment, right? So I don't want the feds forcing the choice. I want it down at the state and local level. So in theory, that's where I am. I don't know how I voted on. Have you seen my votes on any of them? Has it come up? We've had a few of those issues in committee. We discussed that. But I want to be fair, and that's a tough one.
You don't want to be California.
Right. No, I don't want to be, and it depends what it is. Right? So,
She's referring to a state law. The state law in Virginia.
are you referring to federal law forcing or state law?
Well, I'm asking you your opinion on both.
The feds, 10th Amendment, I don't want the feds doing much, right, except the enumerated powers in the Constitution. So, but state, we live in a democracy, republic, and on that one, I'm a little bit of a mind to move toward if it's one of the deadly diseases, the vaccines, and there's a cost, right? Now, you're different because you're homeschooled. So you're not imposing a risk on others, right?
I
But
go to the grocery store.
I know, and that's why, for that reason, right? In economics, it's called spillovers and whatever. But if it's for any of the deadly viruses, et cetera, that spread, and we have vaccines for that or whatever, I'm probably in favor of that. But it'd have to be of the scary kind of thing. Is that what are you talking about? What kind of vaccine?
Well, my concern is there is no study on the current schedule at all. And to make that mandatory is medical tyranny, for lack of better words. You don't know how you're going to react until you get that shot. You have no idea how your child is going to react. And to tell me that if my son had a reaction, to tell me that my daughter still has to get that same shot, even though there's a good chance it could be a genetic reason.
Right.
My doctor's advice would be taken away.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it does come down to individual thing. I would do the research on the exact what it is we're talking about. You're saying there's no research on the schedule or whatever on the
current schedule has no studies at all.
and that I'll check on that. I would find that hard to believe. The schedules of what specific?
There are 69 doses right now being given to children the first 2 years.
For what?
All of the recommended vaccinations.
Right.
There is no study on the effects of if they're
Right.
really bad at this point.
I know. I got doc friends that share your position. It's. I don't want to wobble on you one way or the other. If I would do the research on what's on the schedule and go one by one by one. If there's no research like you're saying, then I'd probably let you have an opt-out clause. If there is research of clear harm to everybody, then I'm probably in. That's the way I think about it. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to add to it. California made it mandatory, and now all these parents are rushing to get their children vaccinated that are not because it's mandatory.
Right.
And you have to look it up. I don't know the exact statistic.
Right.
But I believe it's something like 35% of these kids, because they're getting hammered with these vaccines, are sick. So we really cannot make this mandatory.
Yeah. Well, that's evidence. If you show me that, and if that's the case, then I'm a no. I mean, that's what
what happens if they're not vaccinated. It's like
Right.
you know what happens
Right.
with measles or polio or mumps.
And actually, the measles vaccine is a live virus. So some children that get the vaccine are actually more at risk of spreading it to a child who is not vaccinated.
That's wrong.
Well,
That's wrong.
It's called shedding.
It's shedding. And I mean, I personally know from experience, not my child, but a friend's child that has it.
This
So we've got,
population is too small.
we really need to. Obviously, there's still a lot of controversial two sides, and because we really don't know the answers. We cannot make this mandatory because there's no concrete evidence to support one way or
Well,
another.
that's it. I'll look at. I'll find if there is. Right?
Yeah, and And that's all we
Right.
need.
Right.
Just give us
I'm a
more
liberty
time.
guy, but if there's evidence in the medical community on huge life-saving capacity, it is a public good kind of thing, right? If you're in public and you expose other people to it, then that's the rationale, but it's a slippery slope. I get it.
I think we have time for 3 more.
Good.
So I'll take a quick one down front. Right?
Good. Yep.
The Republican nominee for president needs a boost in popularity.
Yep, that's true.
What would your suggestion be to Donald Trump to raise his rating for president?
That's a softball.
That's your next to the last.
Well, I will say, seriously, he was on a roll. The last couple speeches, last Monday, Tuesday, where he started talking about improving the education system for African Americans, Hispanics, taking care of the least of these. Boy, what a message, right? And it was a new way of articulating his thing. And then today, we got into the immigration thing. Yesterday and today. And like that now is, I would say, stick to your guns on that one. Right? I mean, my word, if you make a promise and you knock out 17 people based on that argument, but just make it principle driven, right? Don't make it personal. Just make it principles, right? I never knocked Eric or who I'm running against now, etc. Right? It's not personal. I just, on the principles, and if you would put everything in principle terms and just show why his principle is better for the people, I think he'd do better. And so, and he is a showman and a marketing genius. I still think he's got a very good chance with his foundation stuff coming. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. But we're all rooting for him.
Next to the last question. Did you had your hand up?
I was just going to ask you about, do you like Paul?
Yeah.
Do you want to get rid of him? Do you want to keep him?
Well, that's 2 different questions. He was a very nice guy. He works out every morning, sleeps on a cot in his office, Wisconsin guy. I got some affection for the Midwest. But lately, he's not being as nice to me for some reason. Because I've been out messaging on Puerto Rico, etc. And are we ready? Yeah. We're right about there, right? So the answer will be determined with the budget and the trade deal coming up. If he goes that route, then it's same old, right? Out, right? And so that the Boehner thing, that's what did it, right? It was the omnibus, and no fight, right? On executive overreach, I skipped, right? Fiduciary rule, the franchisee rule, the overtime rule, the IRS targeting, I skipped all that stuff, right? Obamacare, unconstitutional amnesty. Our side hasn't fought at all on any of the overreach, and Ryan isn't either.
Yes.
And so I could tell you other stories you would not be happy about, right, with leadership. And so I exempted all foreign policy there, no fight. The rest of the world, China's coming at us a little bit, right? They're just focusing narrowly, the stupid stuff, while we're paying for the entire world order, right, and world poverty, and China's not paying for any of that. And they're narrowly targeting us on cyber and some islands and buzzing stuff. Right? And we're not fighting back. Most of that's the president's fault. But if they're not doing anything, Republican leadership has to step in and say something.
You want to do one more?
One more, sure. No, I'm here. Listen.
We got one right down front here. Go ahead.
This is kind of a weird question maybe, but I've heard rumored that there are possibilities that our government might allow other countries to regulate the internet, like China.
Right. No, that's not a rumor.
That's true.
Okay. So, what's the possibility of that actually taking place? What are the ramifications?
That just came up last week, and I'm not deep into that one yet. And so that's an interesting one, kind of like the principal position you had. So the U.S. is controlling the internet, right? So I'm a liberty guy. The major impulse is that way. But if you go the liberty route and open up the web to the rest of the world, they're going to manipulate it and control it. And so is our control of it currently better than their control under supposed freedom, right? So it's a tough. I'm on that one. I'm of the mind, from what I've read on it so far, I think our controlling it right now in the short run until you work out a rational framework that we know about, right? And that's the same thing with the TPA, the trade thing. The trade thing has roughly still been in a bunker. You all don't know what's in it. You haven't read it, right? And so on that one, until we know what we're doing, and these things are very complex, right? And so
We didn't invent the internet, the military.
Al Gore, I think. Right. Keep going. I'm here. If you got questions, that's what I'm here for.
Well, what we have to do is we have to watch the clock. So we're gonna move the day of conversations, the book signing out to the lobby.
All right.
Now I got a few more announcements, and we'll conclude our meeting today. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for being
buddy.
with us.